Ladies and gentlemen, just got done cutting some onions over here at Hot Tongue Pizza, just so I could stop and send you out this brand new episode of Pie to Pie, straight from the oven, baby. Straight from that pizza master at 623 degrees. Top heat 5, bottom heat 2. That's how we get you. That's how we bring it to you. Anyways, we have a special one. This one with a longtime friend from our Vegas sessions out at Pizza Expo 2024. We talked to Scott Sandler, the man, the myth, and the legend from St. Louis, Missouri, baby. You can find me in St. Louis. Shout out St. Lunatics, you know what I'm saying? Woo! Scott Sandler. Scott Sandler of Pizza Via owned 2 other restaurants that he sold off. We talk a lot about that. That is something that Scott has a lot of knowledge in. And I don't know a lot of people who have opened 3 different concepts, all very successful, and then sold 2 of them. I met Scott out at Pizza Pasta Northeast in 2018, going to his cashew mozzarella demo. He's been doing that and restaurant math at the expo for 5 years. Scott's a numbers guy. We talk a lot about that at the beginning of the episode, but we dive deep into all kinds of things. We talk about delegating emotion over reason. We talk about exercising patience, something that I have a huge problem with, and I think a lot of people do. It's one of the hardest things in this industry. We want things now. We want things to go right. We want the success, but the secret to life may be patience, because for those who can wait to get through the struggles, to find out what's on the other side, to not quit, to not give up, that person will reap the rewards, or at least I hope so. We talk about discipline, which is also part of patience. We dive deep into petty tyrants and talk about staying true to your integrity and what you think is right, and not letting others sway your opinions. It goes for everything from restaurant math. We talk about some vegan, vegetarian stuff. We talk about discipline, patience, Buddha, Carlos Casanova. We talk about a little bit of everything. Man, this was an enjoyable episode. Scott is such a knowledgeable dude, a man who knows his numbers, and this episode is just packed with knowledge. Scott, you are a dear friend. I love you, man. He just recently, Pizza Via opened its doors. Pizza's looking great. He brings just so much knowledge to this episode. I know you're gonna enjoy it. If you like rock and roll and you like Brian Jonestown Massacre, that's also a plus. Scott is just like one of the best looking 50-year-olds I've ever met, dude. It might be the vegetarian diet, or maybe he's drinking a lot of water. The dude also has style too, man. He came into the room and just like the energy was right, and I think it was coming from his camouflage hat that he was wearing, dude. I was like, man, where do I get that? Anyways, Brian Jonestown Massacre forever. Scott Sandler, you are a legend. Thank you for coming up to room 2012 in the Encore, baby. Here from the Encore Sessions in Vegas, Scott Sandler. Hope you enjoy. Pardon the interruption, but we need to take some time to mention our sponsor, Maestro Sausage. Maestro has been working closely with pizzerias for decades. They produce sausages designed specifically with pizzerias in mind, and you can tell. Their Italian sausage crumbles look like they were handmade in your shop, and they will taste that way as well. With over 80 years in business, family owned and operated, the family is incredible, and so is their product. It's quality sausage with quality ingredients. If your sausage needs aren't hitting all the right notes, then let Maestro lead the way. Click the link in the show notes. A classical masterpiece awaits you. Back to the show.
That whole starting pizzerias and selling them, I didn't really plan on selling them, but it still comes from what I was doing before, which is like, buying and selling real estate. I mean, for companies, it wasn't my own.
Yeah.
Big stuff, like 500,000 unit apartment complexes.
You're a numbers guy.
I like to think I am.
You're a numbers guy.
I like to.
I mean, you've been doing the restaurant math for how long every year at Expo?
It's been about 5 or 6 years.
So we're here at Expo.
Right.
I've known you for a long time. I think that really you're one of the only people that have been doing like plant-based stuff. Like your cashew demo has been going on as long as the restaurant math one.
Actually, started with the the cashew demo before I even did a session. I just pitched him. Once I was in with the demo, I pitched him a few sessions.
Okay.
You know, so and they went for it because it is an angle that nobody was doing. I mean, they have some sort of how to start a pizzeria workshop thing they have to pay for, and I think that's probably taught by very competent people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is kind of more down and dirty into like how to maximize your profit margin. So like that sort of micro kind of part of the business that I know about, you know.
I think it's interesting that both like your demo and then restaurant math, those are two things not a lot of restaurant owners are going to know about. Vegan products and their numbers. Because to be honest with you, like I would say 90% of restaurant owners really don't know what's going on that POS.
Well, it's sort of like some take the approach of like, as long as my bank account's going up and not down, that's the extent of analyzing the numbers.
Yeah.
You know, which the more information you have and the more knowledge you have about things, the better position you're going to be in to make decisions to make your restaurant more successful or more profitable, because why shouldn't you get paid for all your work?
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm trying to bring with that restaurant math thing is like, hey, you know, you're doing $1 million in sales, but you have $950,000 in expenses, and you're netting $50,000 for yourself after all that work and doing $1 million in sales. You should be clearing $200,000 or more. You know, maybe 15% if you're in a tough market that's high rent and competitive, and like LA.
Yeah.
If you're in a smaller city. But even I imagine obviously the costs of doing business are more expensive in Los Angeles than they are in St. Louis, but you have so much more potential with customers and sales because you have so many people there, and there's people always moving, and there's more competition, but a ton more people than St. Louis is stale. Like you just have this, everybody's fighting for the same pool of people.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying, going back to restaurant math, how maybe in a place like St. Louis, I can do 25 to 28% profit margin, but maybe that's impossible in New York or
LA.
I bet at the same time, if you're running a show the right way and you're staffing properly and you're cutting down on prep labor and your fixed costs are in line, then you should be able to. But the fixed costs are higher. That's where you're in like your gas, your electric, your
Where do you
rent.
think that most mistakes are made in getting to that 20% profit, where people kind of throw money away where they shouldn't?
I would say two things. One, it's if you have a lot of different options in the prep time. So prep time, you know, is labor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really mostly labor.
Okay.
Unless you have, because, you know, ingredients, pizza, I mean, you should be getting good prices relative to what you're going to charge for your ingredients. Mm-hmm. So, well, also if you make a mistake on the fixed cost going in, like you sign a lease, the rent's way too high or the landlord's terrible, you know, you put too much money into the interior or things like you could do later.
All the things
so
did.
That's one mistake. So you're already
that's a big mistake to make. Your overhead is huge.
You're behind the 8 ball already.
Yeah, your
doesn't
debt
mean you
to
can't
profit
catch
ratio.
up. But and then I would say the main thing is labor and how you staff and schedule. Because you might have overlap. But you don't want to, you know, there's some people that operate and they're always way too thin. And that's bad because the customer immediately knows.
Yeah.
So I would say as far as your profit margin, now there's the sales side of that, which I wasn't talking about. What if you're just not generating the sales relative to the percentage of your cost of occupancy, meaning that you got into an area that was expensive, it costs you a lot of money, and your sales just aren't
doing it
there. So I usually you got to try to project out sales and then back into the other costs. That's sort of another thing people should do, is because I was doing cash flow projection and all that stuff for real estate. So when I got into pizza, I just did the same thing. I said, okay, well, I look at the different pizza models out there, the slice shop, the sit down restaurant, they all are very similar. There's a few different models and they're all going to make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
And there's a limit to your oven and your kitchen, there's a limit. So you got to figure out all right, well, how much sales can I reasonably do? Let's say move into like Pizza Head, my old place. There wasn't a pizza place on the street. There's a lot of pent up demand. Once I put the slice shop in, we had a line around the block, and I was able to figure that out beforehand as far as all right, we're going to do this much in sales. So then back into how much labor hours I have budgeted for this. So I can't go over it. So if you don't have discipline and you're like, well, I only have this many hours for labor, but and then you don't have the discipline to stick to what you know. And then products also, you got to have some good products, but you have to have some that are on the cheaper side. It doesn't mean your quality's gonna, you want to use high quality ingredients, but you have to make some certain decisions. Am I going to buy 00 flour in my new shop for $50 a bag, or am I going to buy domestic 00, right? And mix it with local organic. That's what I'm going to do in my new place. So basically buying Janie's Mill organic flour, whole kernel. And I'm going to blend it with maybe a 00 or an all-purpose of some kind. I'm still testing. But anyway, my question going back to, I love Caputo flour. It's $50 a bag. This domestic is $18. Okay, you got to make that decision. Or is this going to be a feature to your audiences? What do your audiences think? Are they going to know the difference?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a long
the answer is no there probably. But to get back to that labor situation and finding, because I've never thought about okay, what are the hours that should actually be worked here? Finding that number and then dispersing them properly between a staff, but getting to that math or understanding I have X amount of hours to give X amount of people, so I should hire, this shop should only have 9 people right now.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So let's say your sales are $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. So 30% your labor shouldn't be more than 30% of sales. So if your sales are $1 million, that means you typically have $300,000 to budget with. But let's just say your other costs, which are 20%, they're at 25 because you're in an expensive city. So you got to cut somewhere. Is it going to be cut in the profit margin? Does that mean it's going to go 20 to 15? Or are you going to have to do 25 labor because you have 25 in your other, which is supposed to be 20. So that 30, 30, 20, 20. 20 profit, 20 other, which is your fixed costs, your rent, your insurance, all that stuff. 30% cost of goods sold, 30% labor.
Yeah.
So backing in, so you start off with a rough number. I can predict, or I've done this much sales. I've done 600,000 in sales. Well, then your labor has to stay within 30% of that. So was that let's just use the $1 million because that's easy math.
Yeah.
300,000. So if your labor is at 400, 450, now you know where it's getting eaten in the profit margin.
Yeah. And I guess then it would be easy to look at I'm making my own fresh mozzarella, I'm making my own vegan cheese, I'm making all my own vegan meats, I'm cutting all my produce instead of buying sliced produce. I'm
all those different decisions.
You start thinking about
what
all
I
those
always
things.
say is make half those decisions and the other half go with the version you didn't want to do.
That's I think that's great advice. Meet yourself halfway. Don't kill yourself, right?
Exactly. So what do you want to be a feature of your place?
Yeah.
What is it? So then focus on that. You making your fresh mozz, you use it as marketing. It takes it to a definitely different level. I don't know in St. Louis if that would matter, but in LA where all the food is really good, making your own mozz. So, okay, I want to spend the labor to do that. Or I want to, I'm buying it. It's really good.
Just using it is a good thing.
Yeah, I took that approach with Pizza Hut in the sauce. We used the fully prepared Stanislaus instead of like crushed tomatoes and make it yourself, like just because so the guys could open the cans. It's really about putting together. It's putting it together. So you can use, let's say you're doing your own fresh monts, but you're using the sauce straight out of the can.
Yeah.
You're like you're still creating the dough you're doing, a sourdough
Yeah.
or your long ferment, and
That's the
putting
most
it
important
together.
thing to me. Yeah.
But yeah, as far as that labor, you want to, if you just follow the principles and if you're not making a certain profit margin, you got to figure out why and then fix it. So if it is a sales problem, which is, one of the issues that could be, but usually it's not. Usually people are making the sales, and it's almost like the more they're making, the more expenses they have.
Yeah.
So
More money, more problems.
it is kind of true. So
Well, you also have a very interesting story in the pizza industry because you're the only person I know who has now opened up 3 different concepts under 3 different names, and I mean, you have the secret sauce, dude. And they're also the branding on all 3 of those restaurants are pretty sick. Are you the brainchild for all of those things?
I guess I'm not I didn't come up with the name Pizza Hut.
No,
actually,
it's so good.
a staff member. I hated at one level anyway. At my first place, Pizzioli. I was one night we were just hanging out, and I was gonna say I said 2 of the staff members were there, and I was like, I'm gonna open this New York spot, punk rock. I said, yeah, it's gonna be a punk rock pizza place, and they both said in unison right after that, punk rock pizza place, and then I knew that I had something there, and then we were throwing around names, and one of the girls came up with Pizza Head. Actually,
it's just so tight because it's like Sneakerhead, Pizza Head. I even loved Bagel Brain.
I'm excited about the new. I was excited about every place, but I'm excited about obviously the new place because Pizza Head, is sold. It belongs to somebody else, and they've taken it in a pretty cool direction.
Yeah.
Based on it still has the original. The pizza's the same, and they're doing he's doing his thing with it, and I love. Actually, you know what? The main thing for me is that it survived without me.
Yeah.
Like my first place is open 10 years and the other place is open 7 years. So I think I don't have to get money from it. I just feel like it's a total success because it's open with other people owning it.
Your first concept is still open too.
Yep.
Yeah. See, I feel like that is a huge success because you set it up. You set it all up, and it says something that like you yourself can walk away and the brand lives on, and maybe it changes a little bit, but like the foundation of it, you laid down those support beams, and I think it says something like to be able to also sell those to people that want to spend their own money to invest in that and take it and make it whatever they want. I mean, I think it speaks volumes of like what you've already created and what you're going to create.
I know people that in the business that have their places and it's their brand, and in some ways they would never sell it to somebody, or they would close it before they'd sell it to somebody, because they don't want somebody to have their brand.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything negative about that type of attitude. But that's sort of like when you create something, you hold on tight. This is mine.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to like give it up. So I feel like in some ways selling those places were just a way. Well, I'm sort of. I guess I like change. It's a way to let go, because like Pizza Head was really like, I got a Pizza Head tattoo that my daughter did here.
Very sick.
And so when I think about it, I think of like, oh well, I just created this baby, handed it off to somebody else to take care of it after, and now I'm on to something new. So it's I mean, some people are at the place their whole life, or they're I mean, I don't recommend necessarily opening places and selling them because it's you don't have any income after you sell it.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, oh, I got some money. I got a big check for the business, but okay, well, I haven't had much income in the last two years plus. So it's sort of like, yeah, now that
Well,
with all the expenses and like, it sounds cool to sell your place for like this big fat check, but at the end of the day, if you're making really good money, then you probably shouldn't sell it unless you have a life change and you want to get out of the business, which I kind of thought I did, but obviously I didn't.
Yes, because you're being pulled back in, baby.
I know.
So
Well,
let's go to the first one. Why did you sell that shop?
when I first opened, it was the passion, Neapolitan pizza.
Yeah.
I was really into making pizza at home. I got a lot of accolades for Pizzioli, but for the work I was doing, I was making money for sure, but it wasn't like, it was okay.
Yeah.
And because of the sit down, it was vegetarian. There was the audience was limited. So then after a year in the biz, I saw this other area that didn't have a pizza spot, and I'm like, man, you have to have a pizza spot there.
Yeah.
South Grand, it's like a foodie destination. There was no pizza place. And I'm like, I want to do a New York. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm like, I want to do a New York. I lived in New York City. I was like, I want to do a New York spot, New York slice spot. And then once I decided that, everything just fell into place for Pizza Head. It was crazy how it just, when things open, the doors open, they open.
Yeah.
And so I had both places for 6 months, and I was losing my mind because they were totally different places. So once I got Pizza Head going, and it was like Pizzioli was like a home run, Pizza Head was like a grand slam. So it's just like, all right, well, I want to sell this place, and I got a broker, and they found somebody, and they bought it.
Yeah.
Wasn't for much, that first place. I mean, number wise. I mean, I guess it would be a lot of money for some people, but at the same time, I have expenses, a kid. But Pizza Head was, because I'm kind of a one-person operation. I mean, I had staff. I don't have anybody else helping me, so I couldn't. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when did you decide that it was time to say goodbye to Pizza Head?
Well, Pizza Head was sort of like the crown of my career, meaning like I feel like everything that I worked for and everything that I could add and offer was Pizza Head. It's sort of like this point, this summit. And the first 3 years I call the golden years of Pizza Head, where we were really popular, we were really doing well. You came in, you get 2 slices and a pint of Bush for a pint of Stag or a pint of PBR for $7.95. 2 New York slices from a 20-inch pie.
Yeah.
So we had those slice specials, which people loved. And then we had the 20-inch pies. No one was really doing 20-inch pies in St. Louis. I actually picked
No one really does them anywhere.
I think, yeah, I guess.
I know one person that does them in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Shout out Pie Trap. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got that idea from London because there was this spot called something Slice. I can't remember, but they were doing 20-inch pies, and they had 3 slices offered. Very European, like one size.
Yeah. Love it.
So anyway, that concept did really well. It was really popular. It was vegetarian. It was unique. 3 years, the golden years, and COVID hit. So then we had to do this at the door, built a window thing that, everybody was doing. And, kind of like the whole vibe of Pizza Head was to come in. We had good music. The walls were splattered with paint. Sort of like.
It was a vibe.
Took it from the 70s era sort of punk aesthetic, which I was interested in, and I liked the music from that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was sort of like what inspired Pizza Head as it wasn't like a literal punk rock place, like some people got confused. It was just sort of like more of the inspiration of the place. And then 2 years of COVID, things got weird with just the whole COVID thing. We managed through it with doing delivery, and we did fine. Numbers went down, sales, but my staff was down to 6 from 10. and hours were down. So it was still pretty profitable. Then with the COVID thing, I was like, all right, I got to open back up inside, kind of do a little bit of a rehab. So it was sort of like this whole next phase that was going to have to happen. You know, the staff, my staff was with me they were with a long time, 3 years or whatever. And I think a couple of them were getting a little antsy and they wanted to, leave. And so, I would say we parted ways. Time for them to go, basically. And then I hired some new people and was going to launch again, getting back to the 7-day-a-week thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people, my customers, approached me, 2 younger people, couple that Pizza Head was a part of their life. They
journey.
liked Pizza Head. It was at their wedding. Pizza Head was at their wedding.
Did you know them as regular
customers? I didn't
customers?
really know them. I don't remember. I think they maybe started coming. I was there. I wasn't there a lot, but I wasn't there that much during COVID, so I wouldn't have seen. Anyway, so they wanted to buy it, and so I was thinking, should I just step out of this for a minute, or should I just, renovate a little bit, go full blast again, and bring back the old Pizza Head vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sell it to them because I want to move on. I was getting tired of driving there. The vibe had changed down in the neighborhood. It just wasn't like when I started Pizza Head. It was just a sort of like I love all, serve all, but I'm a pizza maker and I'm a pizza person. That's what I do. I serve society that way. I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
I'm not taking sides and doing political stuff with my business.
Yeah.
I have my own views, but the business is neutral.
Yeah.
And I think some people didn't like that, like took it one way or the other. And it wasn't one way or the other at all. It was like, you come in, we'll serve you, and we'll serve you good pizza, and you'll be happy after you eat it. That's it.
Well, it's a little unfortunate because this day and age, it's like you're kind of forced to, like as a business now, there's pressure to be like, if you say nothing, you support this or you don't support this. Or
well, certain people expect businesses to do that kind of thing, and I think a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
But those other ones that do are usually loud. Whatever they got a point, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I respect their point, but like, my business is for everyone.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't want to alienate anybody. I don't care what they believe politically.
Yeah.
I just want them to like the pizza.
Yeah.
And I want to
That's
serve.
what you're doing.
Everyone pretty much likes pizza, whether you're whatever.
It's the only party we can all agree on. Whatever, that T-shirt.
Whatever political, whatever you kind of, some people are more or less political, and it's like. So anyway, the point being that I decided it was time to sell and move out of the area and pass it on to 2 younger people who will keep it going.
They just approached you and were like, hey, would you ever think about selling?
Yeah.
And were you instantly kind of like, oh no, I don't want to sell?
At first I was like, no, I'm not selling.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, well, here's the price, and this is why you shouldn't do it.
Hold on.
What?
Was that all in one conversation, or did you get their
No,
information?
at first I'm like,
sit on it.
I sat on it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't really know right now. I don't think so. And then I reached out and said, well, I had a broker. Even though I found the buyer, I still went through the broker, even though I got screwed on the non-compete. But the whole broker thing was to keep everything, on the table, keep everything like
clear.
They vet the buyer, and it's one of the things I recommend when selling your place is to have a lawyer, or even better yet, a business broker and a lawyer.
Yeah.
But
how much is a broker?
I think they got 12%, and then there was a minimum
of the sale.
12%, and then there was some kind of minimum that I forget what it was.
Well worth it though.
I do think so.
Did you have a lawyer look at it too?
I didn't.
Okay.
But I think if I were to sell the business again, well, the broker is good because they'll find you buyers and they'll vet the buyers.
Yeah.
Where if you're just selling it yourself, then you're going to have to field all the inquiries, all the, the people that aren't serious, people
Yeah.
will contact
Waste your
you,
time.
waste your time, basically.
Yeah.
So the brokerage place will, they'll, I personally think it's worth it, and or if you're, I'm going to sell it to my friend who wants to buy it. And, so anyway, that's why I sold Pizza Head. And I realized that I had outgrown it as a person, like I said, the neighborhood changed, the vibe changed, and also I changed, and so I could have kept it going, but now with my new place, so I waited. First year I did not want to be involved with restaurant business, and then started second year, and my wife's like, so what are you going to be doing?
What were you doing?
Well, what did I do for the last 8 years? I was like,
skiing. I saw your Instagram. I was like, damn.
I mean,
Scott's on.
It's always magnified.
Yeah.
It's not like I was on a trip all the time.
Yeah.
I just like to take photographs.
Yes.
So I have somewhere to put them.
Yes.
So, I was like, well, did you remember the last 8 years?
Yeah.
And so, okay. And then, after the first year, I was like, you know what? I tried a bunch of other little food things, and I'm just like, nah. I'm like, you know what? I got to do pizza again.
Mm-hmm.
Pizza's where it's at. It's what I love. It's where I've been successful. It's what I know. And the camaraderie in the pizza industry, it's creative. It just had everything.
Yeah.
Whereas like doing a vegan hot dog and burger place, which sounded cool, but I'm like, nah, do I really want to tinker around with a veggie burger?
Yeah.
And not that passionate about burgers.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about pizza. So that. Anyway, I was getting to my commute. So now I drive on this really nice street. I don't have to take the highway. I feel like the universe I feel like there's a hand in everyone's life, and I just feel like if it sounds sort of cliche a little bit, but if you can get in tune with that, by being patient, and it's really exercise in patience, putting it out there, but also waiting for the doors to open. So I was going back to my wife. She's like, getting impatient. It's like, she wants to be able to say her husband does something. It isn't just like I have another friend who also took 2 years off. He's like about my age. Who's the guy I ski with?
Yeah, both you guys out there killing it.
He was getting a lot more pressure than me.
Yeah.
And I said, oh yeah, Jeff. I said, are you happy at your job? And she said, yeah, and he's like, is Julie happy? And I was like, yeah, now she has to say my husband has a job. He isn't a loser, like, and he's like, exactly. Yeah. Right. So like, what did your husband do? He's whatever. I said,
whatever he wants.
I said to my wife, I said, she's cool though. She's really cool. I was like, I'm an artist, I'm waiting for the opportunity to come. In her mind, she's like, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
But in my mind, of course, she didn't understand how I, work, meaning that like I am doing something. I am not rushing into it. I'm waiting. And sure enough, at the right time, but I did put it out there. I want to do pizza. I want to do pizza again. Yeah. I had to overcome some hurdles, one of which was the non-compete, which we talked about, which we can get into if you want, on selling your pizzeria. I had to do a process in order to get there. Dedicated, show the universe that I was serious about pizza. And I put it out there. And then sure enough, once I put it out there, the chips started falling in place. And now, like, this pizzeria, although I haven't opened yet, but it's kind of the similar situation. There's not much pizza around. This place hadn't done well for years. It had a wood-fired oven in there. The neighborhoods, there's pent-up demand in the neighborhood. So I'm worried about getting rushed. I'm not worried about the sales at this point, although you have to be humble and be like, I don't know how I'm going to do. You can't be cocky. You have to be confident. You can't be cocky at all. So even though I've done 2 successful places before, and this place, I'm just opening the doors and hoping for the best. I think it'll do well. Yeah. And so anyway, my point being that the universe is sort of now, this place is so much better. Everything about this is so much better than what Pizza Head was for me now. So I feel like my commute's shorter.
How far away is it from Pizza
It's
Head?
about 4.5 miles
Okay.
from Pizza Head, but it's
Closer
closer
to
to
you.
where I live. The neighborhood's really nice.
Yeah.
Right? It's urban, but it's not as urban as where Pizza Head was, which was a great place for a slice place.
Yeah.
And so I feel like where I am in my life, 10 years on since I opened Pizza Head, which was at 47, or sorry, Pizzioli at 47 now, I'll be 57 this year. And I feel like
The youngest looking 57. You usually you have more of a beard, but also one of the nicest beards I've ever seen.
thanks.
Yeah.
But I feel like why not? I want to do something. I basically was semi-retired for the last 2 years, and in a sense of semi-retired meaning like I had achieved something and I was taking some time off. But at my age, that's perfectly normal. At 47 is when I started.
Yeah.
After working 25 years in a 9 to 5 type situation.
Yeah.
So like another thing with patience, I feel like you're dedicated to something, that success will come. But what I realized about Pizza Head when I reached that peak of my career, I realized that was again just another stop on the way to this other type of peak.
Yeah.
And I like mountaineering, I like skiing, I like climbing mountains, and so I kind of use that analogy of climbing a mountain or hiking a mountain and getting to the top. And it's sort of like, again, it sounds maybe cheesy, but it's sort of like, it's so true. You can about the effort and the obstacles, and I know you talk about that a lot. And as a business person, that's another thing. There's business obstacles that are going to be thrown your way, and they're going to be different for everyone, but they're going to come. So with me and the staff issue that happened, it's sort of like that was just my obstacle, to get over.
Yeah.
And you have to have your vision. You have to listen and be humble, but you have to not be swayed also by chatter. As far as this and that wanting you to do certain things. You have to have a balance between your own vision and your own conscience, and then what you're getting from the outside. And it's sort of like, but at the same time, I make my decisions and I don't care what people think. I don't really care. I don't. If it's something I don't care what they think about me as a person. If good opportunities or good ideas come for the business through the clientele or through employees or whatever, I respect that, and make changes, but certain changes I won't make. So everyone has their integrity to live by. Meaning that not someone else's idea of what integrity is, like your idea of integrity.
Well, let me creep in here because you said wonderful things. First of all, I think patience is one of the hardest things to have, and it's the scariest thing to believe in because, waiting for all your hard work to pay off, or waiting for the right opportunity, or taking a risk like you have multiple times, and then waiting. No one wants to wait anymore. Everyone grabs their phone to look on Instagram. Everyone wants to order food from Postmates. Everything is instant. That's how we want everything right away. And I think the magic really happens in that patience, And then second thing is that I think was really important that you said, and me and Matt were actually having this conversation about how easy it is to be very confident about something, but then somebody kind of says something and this poison kind of just trickles into your mind and you start second guessing maybe something that you believe greatly in, and then all of a sudden if you give it too much thought, you're spiraling. You know what I mean? And that can be a dangerous thing too. And it's really easy to say, hey, I only care about my integrity and what I think about, and like I'm gonna make the best decision for myself. But sometimes that feels impossible for people. I know it does, because people are scared to make that decision.
And you get a lot of outside pressure. The way people, I'm talking to customers because I'm working on my place. They see the windows, they knock on the window, I go out and talk to them, and everyone offers their own opinion about,
I'm sure they got a lot of advice.
what they want. So it's sort of,
what this place needs.
At some point, there are certain things that will come and you'll be like, oh, that's what I should do. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
But most of it's just garbage, basically, as far as you sticking to your vision and listening to what other people say or want. I think in the business world, you have to be tough, and usually there's a lot of, collateral damage along the way. I know we talked about your old story of the place you were at, or people you're involved with, or you have to fire people. So it's sort of like customers, get pissed off, and it's like all this stuff as a restaurateur, and you have to deal with. But that's just small. You can end up magnifying all that and thinking like, oh my God, I'm not doing
I'm terrible.
Yeah, or
I suck at this.
But I would always look at, okay, I'm not making the pizzas personally, and we're still, 1,000 reviews on Google. We got 4.6. That's pretty respectable. Like if I was there all the time, it'd probably be like a Pizzioli we had higher because I was there. But it's sort of, people. Nothing against people that want to post reviews on Instagram, but that's just not something I like to do. I don't like to. What I learned over all these years, in the beginning, you're getting these 1 star and you're like, oh my God, how can anybody not like my pizza? And it's sort of like my mom told me before I started, she's like, not everybody's going to like your pizza.
Yeah. Great advice, Mom.
So, yeah, exactly. So I learned quickly, I'm like, I'm not even going to deal with a negative review. I'm not going to respond, nothing, because unless it's constructive and respectable, but usually that person would have contacted you first
100%.
before they
tore you apart.
So, by posting a negative review and saying, "Oh, look at this is ridiculous." Like, yeah, we know it's ridiculous. It's 1 star. Well, again, I'm saying as far as what we were talking about, responding and not letting it
affect you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It hurts when you wake up and you look and you see 1 star and someone rips every part of the place.
Well, I think the reason people post those, though, they'll be like, well, what do you think about Carl S.'s response? And then it's like, then all your Instagram followers are like, no, your pizza's great, blah, blah. It's like you post it to get like this fucking like your echo chamber of fans to tell you you're great. Like that's why I feel like people kind of post those things, because it hurts.
I think over time, don't waste your, obviously I would recommend, you're going to get your confidence shaken in this business. Like you're going to get rattled. It's like, I played ball in high school, football, and I played in college too. So it's sort of like when you get decked, and you're kind of shaken up, you got to just like pull yourself up and like keep going.
Get back in it.
And if you're doing, I always say, you stick to we used to say in football, I know, again, it sounds kind of corny, but stick to the fundamentals. And that's what I do on the business end. That's what I do with the food end. And that's what I do with the whole model end of like, stick to the fundamentals. Okay. You're doing a great pizza. Yeah. Sometimes it's there's going to be mistakes. You're providing great service. You're consistent. Your product is well priced. You're producing a product in a timely manner, and you're creating an experience.
Yeah.
If you focus on those fundamentals, you're not going to be rattled, meaning that someone's going to come in, you're not going to have this ingredient, or the pizza was too charred for that. You're going to have those people who are just going to, your place is going to rub them the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, one of my first employees I had at Pizzioli was like saying, if you don't,
ooh, we want the vegan meats. We want the vegan cheeses.
Are people coming up to you and asking you, do you have vegan options? Do you have vegan meats? Well, guess what? A lot of them are not that good, but there is one that reigns superior, and that is Beehive. Everything that they make at Beehive is levels ahead of what you can get in a grocery store. Their pepperoni, their crumbled sausage, their cheeses, there is no contest. And the owner is one of the coolest people I have ever met. They make incredible products that go on your pizza, and it is dope plant food. That's what they call it, and that's what it is. Beehive, the best. Look no further. It's Beehive, baby. Straight out of Nashville. Good people, great product. Check them out.
If you don't have a few haters, you're not doing something right.
Yeah, I love that line.
So and haters aren't there they're there for a purpose, meaning that you don't get involved in the individual and who's doing the hating. The hating is for you to be able to have a thicker skin and to be able to overcome criticism and to be able to be patient with someone who's just saying, you just put your whole life into this pizza, and they're saying, this sucks. This is shit, and your whole place is shit.
This place is garbage.
Right, exactly. And that's basically what they're there to do.
Yeah.
There's a great book I read a long time ago, and it talks about it's Carlos Castaneda. I don't know if you ever heard of Carlos Castaneda, but he's kind of famous in the 60s. He did a whole bunch of books with a shaman. Some people say he made it up. Some people say it's real. Whatever. The lessons in it are good. Uh-huh. And one of them is there's a whole chapter on, it's about being a man of knowledge or a person of knowledge. And one of the chapters is on petty tyrants. So like a petty tyrant is somebody who is there that annoys you, or tests your patience, and they're also training you to be they called it in the book, man of knowledge or woman of knowledge. No gender there. And one of them's petty tyrants. And so those haters that come on and talk about you or say stuff about you or give you a bad review or whatever, those are your petty tyrants. Yeah. And the only way to respond is to not respond and respond with patience, or to be patient when you're at the subject of abuse. And that's what I've learned over all my years of living. Yeah. And that's helped me in business. Mm-hmm. Yes, don't. I get rattled when I get a bad review, or I feel the same when someone says something about me that especially isn't true. Yeah. And that you're just like, what can you do? And that's going to happen to everyone. And again, I bring in the spiritual aspect of it, of the Buddha said that there hasn't been a person in history, nor will there ever be, that isn't wholly blamed or wholly, what's the word? Praised. Okay, so summary of that is no one that sets foot on this earth is going to be either wholly blamed or wholly praised. Yeah. So don't think that you go out and open a pizza shop, you're going to be wholly praised. Yeah. And you're going to get all praise. No. You want to get the most. You want to get more praise than you do on that side. More blame. Sure. Yes. More blame, but blame's just part of it. Yeah. And well, again, this all ties into helping you be a better business person. Yeah. So that ties into emotion. Maybe if you act emotionally in business, then that's where you're in trouble. Yeah. Because emotions aren't balanced with reason. You got to balance emotion and reason, and then you can be a good business person. Yeah. The problem is if you're not, you're usually on the maybe majorly creative side, and you're so emotional, but that makes you so creative. But you're not. You don't have any discipline for the numbers situation because I want this beautiful new table in my restaurant, but you got nice tables. But no, I want this now. This one, so I'm going to spend all the profit I made and I'm going to replace my tables. Yeah. That kind of, then there's the other side, which is being so cold and calculating that you are clinical, and then you're not, you're probably cutting corners, or you're not treating the staff well, not paying them well, or you're so focused on the business and the numbers that you're super cheap and greedy. So there's like the two sides. And I like to try to teach, like, hey, how do you make your profit higher but without being greedy? Because basically how you do it is your own intelligence and how you run your restaurant creates your value for you. You're not creating value or you're not getting that extra money by oppressing or paying, low pay, buying cheap ingredients, doing all that. You're not getting your profit that way. You're getting it another way, because then you have to be, and at some point you get to a point where, okay, well, this is about as efficient as I can get, and if I become more efficient, then that's what I'm kind of worried about with my new place. I'm trying to be so efficient that at the same time I don't want to be so super clinical at the same time.
Yeah.
So there's a balance.
It's all a balance. The other two concepts have both been vegetarian.
Yes.
This concept will have meat. You have been a very big supporter while I've gone through my transition at Hot Tongue, putting on cheese, and then later putting meat on the menu, which has really helped us keep our doors open. What was the reason for you to have meat on your menu this time around?
A couple different reasons, but going back to what you said, keeping the doors open. Keeping the doors open is the most important thing. And with my new place, I've been a vegetarian since 1995, on and off vegan, not completely vegan, but completely vegetarian. When I decided to start Pizzioli as a vegetarian restaurant, people didn't think it was going to make it. So at the time, and then I did Pizza Hut, and it would never even occur to me at that time to sell meat. No way.
Yeah.
I'm still vegetarian, but this third place now, it was kind of a weird epiphany. And, well, I had a non-compete with Pizza Hut. I don't want to get into that, but you will have a non-compete if you sell your place. So that kind of caused me to realize, do I really want to, well, if I did another vegetarian pizza place, I sold a business. Pizza Hut should get that designation. That was that was one of the reasons. But then when I started thinking about that, I said, you know what? This just totally makes sense. All of a sudden I just had this epiphany, like I had to create something different. So 90, I don't know what the exact percentage it is, but the vegan market is growing, but it's still minusculely small. It's very small.
It's like 1%.
Yeah. So it's, most people you meet are eating meat, even if they don't eat a lot of it, they're still eating it. So really it was a matter of non-compete first, but that actually now it wouldn't even really have mattered because I would still do it. Survival, being different than my other two places, which are still open, still have all those vegan options that are great that I created.
Yeah.
So one, I didn't really want to compete with that, and two, I wanted to do something new, and three, I wanted to make sure I survived and kept my doors open. I didn't think St. Louis needed another vegetarian pizza place because there was already two. Although my first place, he started serving meat a long time ago, but they still have all the vegan pies there that I did.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping a small menu anyway. It's probably just going to be pepperoni, regular pepperoni, and maybe I'll do sausage also, plus a plant. I'm still going to do a plant-based pie, but we're only going to have one option.
Are you going to be able to make your cashew cheese there?
Well, I decided to start doing something different because there's cashew cheese at both of my other places.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it with walnuts and pistachios now.
A walnuts pistachio.
Yeah.
Is it like
I call it
cream?
a pate.
Yeah.
Stepping up the level.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
From cheese to pate.
Oh, I love it.
I'm in an area that now it's a demographically different area than I was down at Pizza Hut. it's a little bit more area with people have more disposable income. There's a hospital right there. There's a lot of international people in that neighborhood. It's an old neighborhood in St. Louis called the Central West End.
Mm-hmm.
People might call it upscale, but according to if you compare it to like L.A. or something, I mean, it's a little more on the
I bet it's nicer than LA.
Well, I mean, like upscale, whatever.
They're better looking than where I'm living.
So it's a little bit of a unique clientele and or different clientele.
Yeah.
Because one of the things in business is you have to know who your customers are, and pizza is a neighborhood business.
Yeah.
So I have to make sure I know who the neighborhood is, what they like, to a certain point.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put out a great product that'll resonate with the neighborhood. And getting to the meat thing, I feel like it just needs to be done. If I want to stay in pizza in St. Louis, maybe if I went to another city, I could go back to that vegetarian model. But, I mean, I always talk about you and tell people about what a great place you had out there or have out there. And then I meant like with the vegan pizza and how it's LA and there's a lot of vegans, but having vegan pizza only is very tough. It's a tough prospect. It's not tough if you have a vegan, let's say my friends have Terra Tacos, which is a vegan taco spot. I mean, they absolutely destroy it, but it's tacos and burritos, and it's much easier to do vegan food that way that is very similar to the meat counterparts.
Yeah.
Pizza, though, because it's so heavily reliant on cheese and pepperoni in this country, it's a tough proposition.
Yeah.
With Pizzioli, as I said, Pizza Head did better than Pizzioli because Pizzioli was in a neighborhood the neighborhood didn't really vibe with the vegetarian thing. And Pizza Head, I had the slice joint, so everyone was my customer.
Yeah.
So you want to widen your customer. I'm flipping around. We got the meat, but this ties in.
Yeah.
You want to keep your customer base as wide as possible.
Yeah.
Now I'm not doing slices at my new place because the neighborhood just. Who knows? I probably won't, but I am going to try to do something that's affordable to widen my audience, have like an option that's decently a value option, and then also have the higher priced option.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have a narrow audience. So a vegetarian or vegan pizza spot where I am now, I would have a very narrow audience.
Yeah.
Especially the only reason Pizza Head did so well is because even though it was vegetarian, well, the pizza was obviously good, but I had the slices.
Yeah.
So carnivores, everyone likes a $3 cheese slice.
Of course.
And then we had the vegan pepperoni, so people would eat that. So I was capturing all those customers.
Yeah.
Didn't really matter that I was vegetarian now because I had the slice.
Well, I also don't want to deter anyone from like opening up a vegetarian or an all vegan pizzeria. I think it's definitely possible. I just feel like there's a time we're living in right now, and I don't know how it is in St. Louis, but there's been like epic restaurant closures in Los Angeles, and dining habits have changed like night and day from COVID and other things, and the economy isn't in the greatest place, and we had a strike. Like it's pretty tough in Los Angeles right now, so closing yourself off to any business is dangerous. I mean, there's a lot of vegan businesses, pizza or not, that are on Instagram asking for help, struggling businesses, vegan or not, because it's a wild business. I mean, your margins are pretty good in pizza, but the restaurant industry is scary when you don't have people showing up,
We're a city where you can travel like St. Louis, vegans will travel for it. In LA, because traveling's so difficult, you're a neighborhood spot.
Yeah.
So how many vegans are in that neighborhood, or how many vegan-friendly people are in that neighborhood? There's a lot of people in the neighborhood. There's a lot of people in Los Angeles. But it makes sense because if you don't capture a large part of your neighborhood where you are within a mile or two, and you're a great vegan spot, how many people are going to fight that LA traffic to hit that spot? When St. Louis, it's different because, you know, you can get anywhere in like 15 minutes. So we haven't seen that many vegan, or we have a good vegan community there in St. Louis. The spots that are open do well. But it's also, you know, less expensive to run a place there. And like you have that, vegans are very passionate in St. Louis and they will travel and spend money. You were doing great pizza. You are doing great pizza, but you know, the vegan pizza was, I had it here at the expo last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's some of the best vegan pizza, if not the best in the United States, without even using all the fake, or I don't even say fake because I don't even like that word. I mean like without the substitute, so to speak. But the audience, like you'll see as time moves on with your switch, it'll still take time, but once it's fully established, you know, you'll probably double your revenue.
Yeah.
And that means that you can get paid well for what you're doing.
That I can finally get
support
paid.
Your family.
Something.
Right.
You know?
No, you it's not, you will.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It, like go back to the success thing. You know, what's a person's idea of their success? You know, what makes someone feel successful? I think, again, it's a more cliche type of thing, but you have to define it yourself. And if you measure, you're always going to come up short.
Yeah.
Or you're going to project yourself high, or you're going to feel low when you measure. I like measuring not what's better or what's worse than me or it's more like, hey, what are they doing? Why are they successful? Let's see if I can figure out some things that they're doing. And other places, you know, when places close, why did they close? You know, usually it's not that they couldn't get business. It's that they had the wrong offering, or there's a dispute between partners, or no one was at the wheel, poorly run.
Yeah.
And that's where you get in that whole restaurant thing. All these restaurants, you know, was it 90% of the restaurants fail in their first year, or some statistic,
something like that.
And it usually comes
poor management,
or years on, people are struggling, like the profit margin thing. Say you've been working 5, 6, 7 years, and you're surviving, but you're just struggling. You're working 14-hour days, and your profit margin's low, but you're able to pay your bills and pay your employees and put a little money in the bank. But for all, you know, why not make some changes? And those changes are hard though once everything's set in.
Yeah.
So once a culture is established, it's hard to change those behaviors.
Yeah. But don't be afraid of change. I know you're not.
No.
Change, not changing is death to me.
It's more like an evolution and not necessarily a change. It is change, so to speak. Like Pizza Head, when I opened that, I had a vision for it and I had a vibe, and it sort of, things start to take a life of their own. And you're just sort of, you know, guiding this thing that you created now.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of let it go where it wants to go, but at the same time you have to keep those barriers up so it doesn't go this way. So Pizza Head kind of almost was like a child, like it took its own it took its own path.
Yeah.
And at some point, Pizza Head said, "I'm done with you."
Yeah. Later, Scott.
Like, exactly.
Fuck you, Dad.
Or like, thanks, but I'm doing my my own thing now.
Yeah.
You know, I just think everyone has to. I'm more of a control type person, more of an artist type person. So I don't want to be this big restaurateur.
Yeah.
I want to I'd rather have less money and control the situation then. But again, I think that's not necessarily the best path for everybody. I could have multiplied Pizza Head. I could have done, by now, 10 years on, I could have Pizza Heads in a couple different cities, maybe have 2 in St. Louis.
Yeah.
That's the path. That was the path I could have taken.
Yeah.
That would have required partners.
Yeah, of course. Or at least investors.
I'm adverse to partners.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm just fearful and very slightly paranoid by nature, which helps me with the numbers, helps me with the business, helps me anticipate things, but also I probably wouldn't work well with a partner.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to destroy my business or relationship with someone.
Yeah.
Partners are a lot of the reasons the restaurants fail. It's because of the partners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had your situation that somewhat related with partners, and it's a slippery slope. I mean, some people do it successfully.
Yeah.
But there's so many landmines. There's so many landmines in the restaurant business, and I've stepped on a few.
Yeah.
And I've got a pretty good eye for not stepping on the landmines.
Yeah, you can.
But sometimes you not step on one, you turn around and you stepped on one.
Yeah.
So it's sort of expect those landmines. The key is do you recover from them?
Yeah.
Make your fortress. Make it strong. Make it so you can take these shocks that will hit you. When did you open? Actually,
we opened in February 18, 2022. So
Okay.
2 years old, basically.
Oh, 2022.
Yeah.
I thought you were open during the pandemic.
Our whole build out took we signed the lease in 2020, and it basically took a year and a half to a year, 8 months to get open.
Yeah. So you got through it. You conquered the bureaucracy of
that was
of
more,
LA.
that was landmine after landmine after
Right.
landmine. Like
Right.
my life was blowing up for a year and a half. Like it was just constantly.
Right.
I've never been so angry.
They don't make it easy for you either at a big city like that.
Absolutely not. I still to this day I think that like they would rather have Chipotle's and Habitat burgers open up because that's who it's easy for these places to open up because they have time
because
and
all
money.
their builders and all their people they have ties in. They're tied in with the government, and they get fast tracked and because they're Chipotle and they're it's
a little backwards.
I don't know how it works in LA, but in St. Louis, it's sort of St. Louis City. The liquor license is a bit tedious to get.
You doing full liquor at your restaurant?
Right now, I'm not applying for it because there's the whole thing with St. Louis is the city-county divide. It's a historical thing, and it's one of the reasons St. Louis really hasn't blown up like Nashville or Indianapolis. But so if you do a business in the county, you have different regulations, and then sometimes if you're in the city, so you'll have to get the city you're in permit, the county permit. So St. Louis City, you just have to get the occupancy permit, and they're relatively easy. The inspectors, the plumbers are always usually hard, but the other people, the building inspectors, they're not busting you that hard there. But in certain cities in the county are harder than others, and they want their money, and they're going to try to take as much money as they can from the entrepreneur to the point where, it's just something. And the fact that you went through that, that's incredible that you're still open. You're a small mom and pop, and you went through that bureaucracy of LA, which I can't even imagine what it's like. I don't even want to imagine.
No one does, and it's
Right.
not a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And this leads me to a good question because I don't know this yet. When Pizza Via was that already a built out pizzeria?
It was.
Okay, because the biggest mistake obviously I made was thinking that I could fucking just build a restaurant that used to be a Subway. You know, like we did a full gut, and that's why I ran into all that bureaucracy, you know, plumbing, electrical, blah blah blah. So Pizza Via, you found it.
It's just what I've done.
Already have an oven in there,
and
right?
I don't want to get in debt.
Yeah.
And the good thing about what you did is even though you paid a heavy price for it, you got to do exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
Design your kitchen.
And I got I got the pain, I got the sorrow, I got the information. So next time,
Right, you'll understand.
I'm prepared.
So for me, the upside is, I walk in, I do a few changes, open it for a song, make my money back fast. But I have to kind of deal with what was there already, and I can make some changes. So this one had a wood-fired oven, a brick oven, huge oven. Nobody gets these anymore. And it had a pizza prep. It had 4 refrigerators and a mixer. So
Jackpot.
yeah, I mean, I had to still spend some money, not a lot in restaurant terms.
Yeah.
We're talking about, compared to what people spend, I'm spending pennies. But still, I would say if you are starting out and you do want to, if you have money, you have investors, or you want to get loans, stuff like that, because you want everything to be exactly the way you want it, which does have its advantages, but it's going to cost you. So what I was waiting for before I opened Pizza Via was this exact type of opportunity, a place that was, I'm going to take over a place that was a restaurant or a pizzeria. Pizzeria, better. A restaurant, both places I took over. So my first place was a restaurant, it was a Mexican restaurant. So I had to put the oven in, but still had a nice kitchen already built out.
Yeah.
Had to do some plumbing work and stuff like that. Had a dishwasher in there already. One of those.
Yeah. Nice.
Had a bar and all that. Pizza Head was also it wasn't like a full restaurant, but it was sort of like this cocktail lounge with food. So it had this like little kitchen already, had the bathrooms, they were ADA. The key is you don't want to change anything because then you need the building inspect. Then you need the architectural designs, and they need to approve it and all that. In St. Louis, if you don't change anything, like you don't put walls, or you're basically doing.
Moving
you don't have to.
in. Yeah.
You don't have to get a review, like a building department review. That's also what can slow things down.
Of course.
Because time is money. And my sole focus was staying in the black. And I had learned that from years of, like I said, I'm getting on the older side of people in this business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been in other businesses, and I realized that I do not want to get into debt. Now, sometimes that's impossible. You have to take on equity, or you have to take on debt. You have to pay back partners, or you have to pay back a loan. That's not possible for everyone. I basically spent what I had, my life savings. When I opened my first place in 2014, Pizzioli, I basically spent pretty much all the money I had to start. So I had to be successful. And I know as an entrepreneur and you're just starting out and you want to open your own pizzeria, if you're not at the point where you have to be successful, you won't have that drive, that hunger to be successful. So that's what drives, now I'm in a different situation, but that was 10 years ago. And so I absolutely did not want to take on money from other people. And so I started Pizzioli for maybe 45 grand.
Yeah.
Which in the restaurant business, that's pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pizza Head was similar.
Mm-hmm.
Ovens are a little more expensive now,
Yeah.
but still, if you're in a smaller city, you can do it for that. If you take over a place and you focus and don't focus too much on the interior, at least in the beginning, just do a few things and launch and open. Then down the road, I remodeled Pizzioli a year and a half later. I hated the interior. It was awful.
Yeah.
It looked like a pizza place that had taken over a Mexican place. So it was sort of like, and except for my oven, but now it's like amazing the way it looks.
Yeah.
But people still came.
Yeah.
Because the pizza was good and you created a vibe.
Did you ever eat at the restaurant that was at where you currently moved into? No.
neither.
Did you ask for their numbers or anything when you?
No, they were vacant when I looked at the
For a long
spaces.
time? Okay.
Well, the thing in St. Louis is, you know, you look at a place, you go 3 months later, it's still there.
Yeah.
You have your choice.
Yeah.
You probably in LA, you know, as soon as you think of an idea, someone's like already working on it.
Yes,
You
100%.
know?
100%. It's like,
Right.
what the fuck? I just said that out loud. Get on Instagram. It's
Yeah.
like, now opening.
Yeah, right. Right. It's but the good thing about LA is you're around so much creativity
Yeah.
that it does boost your creativity.
Yeah.
So that's why I travel a lot from St. Louis, because that way I can go to cities and come back and get that creative vibe. That's why I come to the Pizza Expo.
Yeah.
You know, some people don't like the Pizza Expo. Some people like it. I love it because I feel like you can learn here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already learning stuff. I went to a pizza place last night and I was just watching everything at the bar. I mean, I've been doing this 10 years now. I'm not a novice, but at the same time, I'm like looking at what they're doing, their operation, the way they were doing pizzas, how they were doing their, you know, the tickets, where they were coming in, how they were doing their oven.
Yeah.
Like they had this wood-fired oven, but they had this like, you know, like you do in your fireplace. They had this thing. I never had one of those, and the logs were on top, and they were burning real nice. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm gonna get one of those.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
I love that.
So like, that's why I come to the Pizza Expo, talking to people like you, and just, I just feel like you don't necessarily have to come. There's successful pizzerias and pizziolos that don't come, or they can't come because they're too busy. But if you can make it here, I just feel like you step up your game no matter who you are.
Yeah.
What about you? What about your plans with Hot Tongue? I know you just made that big transition with. We'll turn the tables right now.
Okay.
You made
The
that big.
interview's
You
now on
made
me.
that big transition with going to cheese and putting cheese and meat. How have you seen the community respond, and are your numbers reflecting that response? Obviously, you might have lost some hardcore vegans who like, hey, I'm not going to that place anymore. But most of the comments I saw were positive. They were like, yo, you know, we're vegan, but I know they respect what you're doing. You got to do what you got to do to survive.
Yeah.
And we're glad that you have vegan pizza.
Well, it got pretty gross at the end, so we turned off comments, and then, but without getting into that, right away we lost a fair amount of like regulars, but it's been very interesting that in the last month or so we've seen a lot of those people come back, and I think that like
because they had an emotional reaction.
Yeah, they can be as angry as they want to, and I'm just going to be honest, you're not going to find a better slice that's vegan in the city. So like if that's you like food and you're vegan, that's where you're going to go eat.
Yeah, I mean, they probably realize it's a ridiculous stance.
Yeah.
And I reacted emotionally like I was talking.
Yeah.
And then they're like, damn, I want a good slice of pizza. I'm not going to Hot Tongue. I'm not going to Hot Tongue. Finally, they're like, you know what? I just want a good slice. I'm going to go to Hot Tongue. You know, people are forgiving. I like to think, not that you did anything wrong,
Yeah.
because you didn't.
Yeah.
But in their mind, they're like,
I fucked up the world. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the funny thing is like we've had 2 people now come into the shop who like roasted us in our comment section during the whole transition.
And
Roasted
then they
us.
walk in
And
like nothing happened.
No, they came in and
Right.
asked for a
Oh.
job. And it's like, oh, I was in I saw this person. I went to the back and I just started laughing. I had to tell my wife, like, do you remember so-and-so and like all this stuff they were saying? That person just came and asked for a job.
Then they have the gall to come in. Not that you wouldn't be a
No,
forgiving
no,
person,
not at all.
but at the same time,
It was
like,
too funny though.
Do you really want to hire somebody that
No.
that did that to you?
No.
So that, and
But-
so you've seen, but
People
as
come
far
back,
as the community now,
the community always was behind us. It got a little weird with some regulars who would still come in, and it was almost like they didn't want to engage with us anymore because something like it was really weird. So it took a little time, and I had to have kind of tough conversations with some people where it was like, you know, this is what we are doing, you know, and you kind of explain your stance on things. And, you know, a lot of the real ones are still great friends. It's just changed a lot, but we've seen like a ton of new faces, and it has.
so your sales have gone up.
Oh my, exponentially.
Okay.
January and February were our biggest sales months of the 2 years we've been open.
Because I was thinking your pizzeria and the size of it and what you're doing, from what I can see, I haven't been there.
It's 1,300
But-
square feet.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see you with this getting to the million sales if you're not there already.
Yeah.
You know, you're definitely, I feel like that's in a way the gold standard of a mom and pop pizza shop, no matter where you are.
Yeah, a
If,
milli.
if you're, Well, that's really good. I think that's where you should be able to get there.
Agree.
That's a 7-day a week shop.
Yeah.
12, open 10 hours
Yeah.
a day. You can't do it. Well, a mom and pop that's open only 5 days a week and only open at night.
Can have trouble.
It's really hard unless you have a huge liquor and a huge bar.
Yes.
You may do 500 in food and 500 in liquor.
Agree.
If you're that model.
Yeah.
But as far as you will, now that you're a full-fledged pizza shop, you'll totally, like I said, you'll totally get there, and I think that'll be sooner than you think.
It's the same things too that I saw at Purgatory, where it was like, I couldn't pay people that weren't vegan to come in anymore. Like, I could make the greatest pizza and it could be better than a cheese slice or whatever, but if you eat meat and cheese, like, you're not coming in there. You're gonna go get pizza that's across the street or whatever. But now the fact that I have those options and they come in and they get whatever they want, and then they get an arrabbiata and they have a tomato pie and they eat and they have no idea it's vegan because, like, no one reads a sign that says vegan. But they come back, and now I can have that customer that comes back and gets 2 arrabbiatas every time. And there is just because the pepperoni's there, they feel more comfortable in the space, if that makes sense.
Right. You're also making, yes, there's that ethical. If you're a vegan or you've been vegetarian, well, I'm vegetarian, mainly from my influence from Indian philosophy, Vedic philosophy, which they're the cow's sacred, so they're not so much the milk and the curds and the yogurt. It's part of the culture over there. So in the ancient times, it was more not eating meat, the vegetarian, for your mind and meditation and stuff. But the vegan part of it wasn't, so that's originally why I became vegetarian. So you think like, oh, well, okay, I'm selling the meat now, so I'm in that chain of, I'm participating. But then at the same time, in the way I see it now, it's a little differently. It disturbs me a little, but at the same time, I'm serving the people and making the people happy, and I'm making this compromise, and I still don't necessarily know how I feel about it, to tell you the truth. Because if I did any other food, I would do a completely vegan spot, like burrito spot or whatever. But I just feel like with pizza, I love pizza so much that I feel like I'm vegetarian, and I said it. We're not converting anyone.
Yeah.
By you being a vegan pizza spot, you're not necessarily making people change. Like, people come in and eat your food because it's great, and vegans will bring their family members and they'll eat it, but they're not being converted. All these years I've been vegetarian, like since 1995.
Yeah.
I would say only maybe 1 or 2 people I've ever come in contact with know I'm a vegetarian, know how I feel about it, have changed and become a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Like 2. I just feel like people are going to come to that decision themselves.
Well, of course, and I'm not talking about conversion. I'm just saying that.
But I'm saying in my reasoning as to why I'm like, all right, well, I should sell this pepperoni to 95% of the people out there because that's what they want. So otherwise, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, but I just also feel like being able to bring those things in, this thing that I worked so hard on, creating my own cashew, liquid mozzarella and almond ricotta and all these things that I think are delicious, and try to share that with 99% of the community. But I haven't been able to do that because I haven't been able to get 99% of the community because they see the word vegan and they're not coming through that door. So automatically having those things was, and I like totally overshot myself. I totally thought that, like, it doesn't matter. They'll come. If you build it, they will come. And I've needed that gateway to open to have those people and share that food with them. And I don't care if they are vegetarian or vegan, but the minute they say, hey, man, this tastes great, I had no idea, then maybe, just maybe, that person is more likely to either come back and eat the food or try something else down the line. Because I've changed a lot. This this whole situation has changed me a lot. I started eating meat after 20 years because of this situation. I felt like the community had basically told me to fuck off, and I had crazy philosophical conversations and conversations I've never had before, and I had to take a big look at myself and my beliefs.
Right.
And to me, it wasn't about extremism anymore. It was about balance,
Right.
and moderation.
People just have to live by their own conscience, you
Yeah.
know? So if you can wake up and look in the mirror in the morning and, you know,
Feel good
about your decisions,
Yeah.
then that's all that's important. And, you know, there's so much with the internet and, you know, there's so much judgment these days, and there's so much like, this is right, this is wrong. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what people say is right or wrong. It only matters to you, like what's right or wrong to you. And I think people don't understand that I don't care what you say or what you think about me, and if I'm a bad person or I'm a good person or whatever. That's your judgment, and your judgment is just your judgment.
Yeah.
So it's hard, and we talked about it before.
Yeah.
So people, and you went through, that's a sort of a life transformative experience of getting that abuse and people telling you you're a fraud and you're a fake and you said you were vegan and now you're doing this, so you're this type of person.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, no, you're who you are.
Yeah.
And maybe they think you're that way, or like,
Yeah.
oh, well, you were just doing it and now you're not, so you're not real. You know, you're
You're a simp.
You're what?
Nothing. I said simp.
Well, just going through that, you're making decisions for your life, for your family,
Yeah.
for your business.
Yeah. And like you said, man,
Right.
it's the when you hear so much negativity or these, what did you call them? Tyrants?
Petty
Tyrants, and you let that kind of like get in, and let those evil thoughts in.
No, take
like
those petty tyrants
it's training.
as teachers.
And I
Right.
totally agree with that. And it took a minute though to be like, all right, keep coming at me, and your skin gets thicker and thicker and thicker until it's funny.
Well, at a certain point, you realize this is all about them.
Yeah, of course.
It's not about you.
That's the secret.
Right.
That's the secret.
Right, and then you're
yeah.
like, what can I do?
Yeah,
well,
good
there's
luck.
a quote that I always like from my the spiritual person I look to in India, and that the quote was, you know, and this is in direct response to criticism and to slander and to whatever. It's like, you know, if the dogs bark at the moon, does it make the moon any less beautiful? Meaning that, and I'm not calling people dogs, I'm just saying that the people that are barking, the moon is still beautiful.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that someone's barking, you know? So like, I always take that and I'm thinking like, you know, in that situation, I'm obviously the moon, and the people, the people criticizing or saying things are the dogs, but like, it's more just symbolic of like, hey, I think it's part of life. It's just part of life. There's the criticism is, and difficulties and hurdles are, you can't freak out if someone gives you a 1 star. It's sort of like, it takes time to learn and patience to like.
Petty Tyrants.
Well, that book was
I think
really.
we might have to call this episode Petty Tyrants.
You should. That is good. No, petty tyrants they're not the individual. Anyone could be a petty tyrant to you.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, sometimes your families are petty tyrants to you.
100%, yeah.
You know,
My
and
wife.
they're
Poking me all the time.
they're just trying to.
We'll cut that out. Well, I got one last and very important question.
Yeah.
Who's the greatest artist or band of all time?
I mean, one just keeps coming.
All right, just let her out.
Although I don't listen to them that much.
That's fine.
The Doors.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful little Jim Morrison fan, huh?
I was a huge Doors fan. Like I said, I listen to them here and there, but there's so many. I'd say also my modern band is the Brian Jones Hounds Massacre.
Yeah.
You heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say they're my favorite modern band. Cool.
All right, well, you
Thank
got
man.
you got a seminar you got to get to.
Yeah, how to sell your pizzeria for something. It's supposed to be how to sell your pizzeria for top dollar.
But it just says something.
Usually it's how do you
That is underwhelming.
How to sell your pizzeria for something. Because most people...
Somebody fucked up.
Right, exactly.
Somebody is fired. Yeah.
That's what it could be like if you don't come to the seminar.
Yeah, you might just be getting
You might
something.
have to pay somebody to take your pizzeria, which does happen in this industry.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No.
All right, everyone listen to
Thank you.
Scott Sandler. Get top dollar. Thank you for your time, dude.
Thank you. That was awesome.